What's going on, guys? So today we're going to be taking a look at my top 3 favorite budget knives. These are all under 50 bucks, and I think they're all fantastic quality, different steels, different price points, and I just think these are all fantastic knives. So let's go through them all, and I'll tell you a little bit about each one. Alrighty, so the first one we're going to be taking a look at is the Ontario Rat Model 2. This is the little brother to the Ontario Rat Model 1, which is basically this exact knife, just at a bigger scale. You can pick this knife up right now for $25.07 on Amazon. So some of the features that I really love about this knife is the dual thumb studs. So this knife is completely ambidextrous. So you can take the pocket clip and you can do it reverse side, right or left, or you can do it tip up or tip down carry. So there's a ton of customization with this knife, and since there are dual thumb studs, this thing is completely ambidextrous for all of you lefties out there. But the operation is nice and smooth. Let me give you a close-up of this knife here. So this knife uses AUS 8 steel, which is a fantastic steel for a knife this cheap. AUS 8 steel is basically just a little bit of a stronger steel than like 420 HC. It's actually not even considered a budget steel. This is actually considered a really really high grade steel for pocket knives. So it'll have really good edge retention. It'll have really good rust resistance. It's just a fantastic steel. So on the back here, you do have some jimping. So when you do hold it in your hand, you do have some control over the blade, which is nice. And there is a small little finger choil and a nice little place for your finger to rest in there. You have really good control, with this knife. So the scales of this knife are nylon, and then it is a liner lock in there. And the liner lock is very, very smooth. Operation, opening and closing one-handedly, is very, very smooth, nice and efficient. And then I can even do it left-handed. I'm really bad with my left hand, so forgive me here, but it works. So I can barely use my left hand, and I still did it. So if you're a lefty and you're worrying about using this knife, it should be no problem at all. Just flip that pocket clip to the other side, and you're good. And then the blade does have a satin finish on there, so that will help with pretty much every aspect of the blade. This blade should last you a very, very long time. And sharpening should be a breeze. AUS 8 steel isn't a super, super hard steel, so just getting this thing sharpened shouldn't be too big of a hassle. So if you have just a standard sharpener, this thing should be able to be sharpened on that. All right, here's another close-up of that blade. So, and you can see the Ontario logo there. And then that's pretty much it. So, and I have it in the black color. I believe it comes in a few other colors as well, but I think I got it in black because I just, it was the most basic color, and I was a fan of it. So definitely a fantastic pickup. This thing is nice and small too. Here it is in my palm, and I have fairly large hands, so this thing is it's pretty small. It fits really well in the pocket, and this thing is only 3.2 ounces, so putting this thing in your pocket will be a breeze. It's nice and lightweight, and you will barely feel it in there, so definitely really, really like that. So the only gripe I have with this thing, and it's not really that big of a deal, I'm just not a fan of the pocket clip, and this is just personal preference. I personally like a deep carry pocket clip. I like the knife to be completely hidden, but with this knife, it does stick out a little bit on the pocket, and I'm not a big fan of that. The pocket clip is still really good, and it's reliable, and it works, but it's just not a deep carry pocket clip, which I personally prefer. But if you don't care about the pocket clip, then this knife will be fantastic for you. But I have found myself choosing other knives over this knife because of the pocket clip, so just wanted to point that out. But overall, fantastic knife, 25 bucks, you can't go wrong, the Ontario Rat Model 2, and I will have it linked below. All right, so the next knife we're going to be taking a look at is the Rook P801. And this is a fantastic budget knife. This thing's $28.99 on Amazon, and it's one of my favorite knives I think I've ever owned. It's kind of the complete package. So the first thing that I loved about this knife was the opening. It doesn't use a speed safe technology like most Kershaw knives do. This thing is just a nice smooth operation. All you have to do is give it a nice strong flick with your finger, and this thing flies out instantaneously. Whoops. It's just a super smooth operation, and then obviously it can be opened with the thumb studs, so it's really not that hard. But it does have dual thumb studs, which is nice. So the steel they are using here is 14C28N, and I know it's a really long name for steel, but it's a little bit better than 8CR13 MOV steel, which you see on a lot of budget knives. So this is just a little bit more of an upgrade than some other budget knives, but just be aware that this is a budget steel and it's going to behave like a budget steel. But overall, I think if you're using this thing for just everyday carry uses, this thing will perform fantastic for you. So probably my favorite part about this knife is the pocket clip. This thing goes all the way up. This is a very deep carrot pocket clip, and it completely fixes all the problems that I had with the Ontario Rat. This thing sits nice and flush on the pocket, and I love, and one thing just aesthetically pleasing about this knife is the blue accents. I love the blue pocket clip, and then there are some blue accents in the little spacers here. So you get a little bit of blue there, some blue there, and I do like those little accents. So, but all in all, I think this is a fantastic pocket clip. It's one of my favorite pocket clips I've ever used in a pocket knife. This thing is just fantastic. It sits it sits flush with the pocket. You can't really ask for more. Yeah, like I said, it does have dual thumb studs, and then there is some jipping on the back, so you get some really good control over this knife. There is a small finger choil, so your finger is safe from sliding up and getting cut. And then this thing is a frame lock, so it's just part of the frame. And the thing is, it's super reliable. Opening and closing this thing is a breeze, one-handed. And since it is ambidextrous, you can easily, oops, dang it, I'm not good with using my left hand. So there you are. And the pocket clip is not reversible, so that probably could be a problem to all of you lefties out there. But if you use it in your left pocket, you can easily pull that out, flip it around, and you can easily open it and close it. I just did it with my left hand, and I am not a lefty, so there you are. And then this thing is 4.2 ounces, so it's a little bit heavier than the Ontario Rat, but I find myself not even noticing this thing in my pocket anymore. It's super lightweight. It does have a nice heft to it, but it's not a super heavy knife because there's no plastic in this thing. Everything is metal, and that's why I like it so much, because it just feels nice and solid in your hand. So all in all, fantastic knife, $28.99. You can't really go wrong. $30 for this knife. It's a really good deal. So I definitely check it out. The Rook P801. All right, and this is probably my favorite knife of the bunch. This is the Gerber Shark Belly. Now, this is the knife I personally use every day at work. This thing is a fantastic work blade. I use it for opening packages, mail, cutting tags off of shoes, clothing, anything that I need to cut. This thing is just fantastic. It's a sheepfoot blade, so it's not as, I guess, scary as a knife like this. So when you pull a knife out like this, people tend to get scared, or I don't know, but because a lot of times I have to cut tags off of shoes for kids, and when I pull this knife out, I have to do this, and that might be a little scary for some parents. But if I pull this thing out and I do the whole two-handed opening thing, it just looks a lot less threatening. So you can pick this up right now for $31.59 on Amazon. I will link it below. There are a couple different priced ones, but the cheapest one I found was for $31.59. So it's a pretty good price, considering that you get 420 HC steel, which is an okay steel. It's not fantastic. It's not as good as Aus-8 steel, but this knife is made in the USA using the 420 HC steel, and I've heard mixed reviews on Gerber's steel. On their 420 HC steel, people don't think it's the most amazing steel, but this thing will do just fine for any EDC purposes. This thing should work completely fine. And since it is a lockback design and it does have a locking position in the middle, this thing is probably the safest knife to use. So a lot of times with liner locks, people worry about the knife coming loose in their pocket or something like that, and then it's stabbing them. So this thing is probably the safest option out of all the knives you see here. But one-handed opening is super easy with the little finger, a little cut in the middle they give you there. So opening this thing is a breeze, and then closing it is even easier. You just press this up, press it against your body or something, or press it against a table, and you can close this thing easily. So one-handed opening is not a problem, even for you lefties out there, because if I can do it, you can do it. So there's that. My favorite part of this knife is the pocket clip. This thing is so lightweight. I love the wired pocket clip. It slips in your pocket nice and smooth. It sits right on the top there, and this thing actually goes above, the pocket clip actually goes above the knife, which is really cool. I'm a huge fan of that. Yeah, so that was a big selling point for me. I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, this thing will be perfect for work. So I've never been a huge fan of half serrated blades, usually because I think the serrations get in the way of using the knife to its fullest potential. But since this is such a huge blade surface, I actually haven't really been minding it. You get a very large amount of straight edge, and you get a little bit of serration there. So obviously the serration is for more harsh materials, and then the straight edge is for pretty much, you can really cut anything with a straight edge, but for like rope and stuff like that, and like zip ties, you'll probably need the serration. But yeah, I do like how this is such a huge blade surface, and I'm just a big fan of this design. So the scales of this knife are made from glass infused nylon, so you get a really nice grip there. There is no finger choil. I mean, there kind of is. It's very, very tiny. But, your finger could easily slip forward and get cut, so I would just watch that. But there is some jipping on the back, and you can get some really good control of this knife. So this knife does come in at 4 ounces, so it is just a little bit lighter than the Rook. But honestly, I feel like in my pocket, this thing feels the lightest. It honestly feels lighter than the Ontario Rat, and the Ontario Rat is significantly lighter than the Gerber. So I don't know how this knife feels lighter in my pocket particularly, but out of all the knives that I've tested, this thing feels the best in my pocket. I don't know if it's the handles or if it's the pocket clip. Just all in all, I think this is probably the best knife you can use for EDC purposes, or if you are opening a lot of packages on a daily basis, I would highly suggest this knife. I'll link it on Amazon, the Gerber Shark Belly. Definitely go pick it up. Alright, well that's going to do it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. All of these knives will be linked below if you want to go check them out. But all in all, I think these are fantastic knives, and I recommend you pick up any one of them. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. ZAKBARRYPRODUCTIONS signing out. Peace.